My mom mocked me at the table. Wish you were never born. Have you ever sat at a dinner table surrounded by people who are supposed to love you, only to realize they've been waiting for the perfect moment to destroy you? That's exactly where I was 3 months ago. My own mother, the woman who gave birth to me, looked me dead in the eyes and said those words. Words that still echo in my mind every single night. I wish you were never born. And everyone laughed. My father, my brother, even my aunt who came to visit. They all laughed like it was the funniest joke they'd ever heard. But I wasn't laughing. I was holding an envelope under the table, my hands shaking so hard I thought I might drop it. And in that moment, I made a decision that would change everything. If you've ever felt invisible in your own family, if you've ever been the one they blame for everything, stay with me through this story. Hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't already, and drop a comment telling me if you've ever had to stand up to your own family. Because what happened next, none of them saw coming. Let me take you back to where it all started. I should probably tell you that I've always been the black sheep. Not because I was a troublemaker or a disappointment in the traditional sense. No, my crime was much worse in my family's eyes. I was different. While my older brother Marcus was the golden child, football star, straight A's, full-ride scholarship to state, I was the quiet one. The artist. The girl who spent hours in her room painting instead of socializing. The one who chose community college to study. Graphic design instead of following in my father's footsteps into business. My mother never let me forget it. Amber's always been special, she'd say to relatives, with that tight smile that didn't reach her eyes. Special, like it was a diagnosis, like being creative was some kind of defect, but I dealt with it. I kept my head down, worked part-time at a coffee shop, took my classes, and tried to stay out of their way. I lived at home because rent in our city was impossible, and my coffee shop salary barely covered my art supplies and tuition. I told myself it was temporary. Just until I graduated, just until I could afford my own place. I told myself a lot of things back then. The dinner happened on a Sunday. My mom always insisted on family dinners on Sundays. Her way of maintaining the illusion that we were this perfect, close-knit family. My Aunt Linda was visiting from Portland, and Mom had gone all out. Roast chicken, mashed potatoes, green beans, the works. The dining room smelled amazing, and for a brief moment I actually felt hopeful. Maybe today would be different. Maybe today I could just be part of the family. I should have known better. We were about 20 minutes into the meal when it started. Marcus was talking about his new job at some tech startup, and my dad was beaming with pride. Mom kept touching Marcus's arm, laughing at everything he said. Aunt Linda was asking him questions, genuinely interested in his life, his accomplishments, his future. I might as well have been a piece of furniture. So, Amber? Aunt Linda finally turned to me, probably remembering I existed. How's school going? Still doing that computer thing? Graphic design, I corrected gently. It's going really well, actually. I just finished a project for a local nonprofit, designed their entire rebrand. That's nice, honey, Mom interrupted, not even looking at me. Marcus, tell Linda about that promotion you're up for. My words died in my throat. I stared down at my plate, fork frozen halfway to my mouth. It was such a small thing being talked over. It happened all the time, but something about that moment, the casual dismissal, the way she didn't even pretend to care, it made something crack inside my chest. Mom, I tried again. Amber, please. We're trying to have a conversation. She said it with that exasperated tone, like I was a child interrupting adults. I was 22 years old. Marcus jumped back in, oblivious or uncaring. I've never been sure which, and the conversation flowed around me like water around a rock. I sat there, invisible, pushing food around my plate, and trying not to feel the familiar sting of tears. Then my dad spoke up. You know, Linda, we really hit the jackpot with Marcus. Smart, ambitious, good head on his shoulders. He paused, and I felt it coming before he even said it. If only they all turned out that way, right? He laughed. It was supposed to be a joke. Aunt Linda looked uncomfortable, but she smiled. My own mother, she didn't just smile. She laughed. A real, genuine laugh. "Oh, don't even get me started," Mom said, shaking her head. "I swear, sometimes I look at Amber and wonder where we went wrong. It's like she's from a different family entirely." My blood ran cold. I stared at her, waiting for the punchline, waiting for her to look at me and say she was kidding. She didn't. She just kept talking. 22 years old and still living at home, working at a coffee shop, taking classes at community college. No boyfriend, no social life, just locked in her room with those paints and that computer. She said paints like it was a dirty word. I mean, Marcus had already been accepted to state by the time he was her age. Full scholarship. "Remember?" "Mom?" I started, my voice barely above a whisper. "And the attitude," she continued, on a roll now. "The constant moping, the sensitivity. Everything's a personal attack with her. You can't say anything without her getting offended." "Maybe because you're always criticizing me," I said, louder now. My heart was pounding. "See?" Mom gestured at me like I was Exhibit A. "Exactly what I'm talking about. Can't take a single observation without making it dramatic." Observation? I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "You just told the whole table that you wonder where you went wrong with me. How is that an observation?" "Oh, Amber, don't be so sensitive," Dad chimed in. "Your mother's just being honest. We all have concerns about your future, that's all. It's not like you're making much of yourself. I'm in school." My voice cracked. "I'm working, I'm studying, I'm building a portfolio. For what?" Mom's voice was sharp now. "For some pipe dream career that probably won't even pay the bills?" "Honey, we're being realistic here. Maybe it's time you consider something more practical. Something stable. Like what? Business, like Dad?" I felt something hot and angry rising in my chest. "I don't want that. I never wanted that. Why can't you just support?" "Support?" Mom let out a harsh laugh. "Amber, we've supported you your whole life. Fed you, clothed you, paid for your classes. And what do we get in return? A daughter who hides in her room, who doesn't contribute to this family, who can't even hold a normal conversation at dinner without making everything about herself." The table went quiet. Even Marcus looked uncomfortable now, staring at his plate. Aunt Linda was studying her wine glass like it held the secrets of the universe. I felt like I'd been slapped. Making everything about myself? "Mom? I barely said 10 words tonight before you." "And here we go again," Mom said, rolling her eyes. "The victim routine. Honestly, Amber, sometimes I wonder—" She paused, and there was something mean in her eyes. Something I'd never seen directed at me with quite this much venom. "Sometimes I wish you were never born." The words hung in the air like smoke. I stopped breathing. Literally stopped breathing. Because surely I'd misheard. Surely my mother hadn't just said that. Not at the dinner table. Not in front of everyone. But then she kept going. I mean, think about how much easier life would be. How much money we'd have saved. How much stress we'd have avoided. Marcus was such an easy child. And then you came along and it's just been one thing after another. The tantrums, the rebellion, the refusal to just be normal. "Mom," Marcus said quietly. But she ignored him. "Maybe if you'd never been born, we could have focused all our energy on the child who actually appreciates us, who actually makes us proud." And then, I swear I'll never forget this as long as I live, my father laughed. A small chuckle, like she'd made a witty observation about the weather. And then Aunt Linda, probably trying to break the tension, let out this nervous giggle. And then Mom smiled, satisfied, like she'd finally said what she'd been holding in for years. They were laughing. At the idea of me never existing. At the notion that their lives would be better if I'd never been born. I sat there, frozen, while my entire family essentially agreed that I was worthless. That's when I felt it. The envelope in my jacket pocket, hanging on the back of my chair. I'd gotten it 3 days ago. I'd been waiting for the right moment to share it with them, to finally make them proud, to finally prove that I wasn't the failure they thought I was. But looking at my mother's face, the disgust, the disappointment, the complete lack of love, I realized something. They didn't deserve to know. not like this. Not as some gift I was giving them. They needed to understand exactly what they'd done, what they'd said, who they'd become. My hands were shaking as I reached into my pocket. Every eye at the table was on me now, probably expecting me to run to my room crying like I usually did after these disasters. But I didn't run. Instead, I pulled out the envelope. Thick, expensive paper, cream-colored with embossed lettering on the front. I set it on the table in front of my mother, my hand surprisingly steady now that I'd made my decision. "What's this?" Mom asked, that annoyed tone still in her voice. "Open it," I said quietly. "Amber, if this is some kind of... just open it." She picked up the envelope, frowning, and I watched her face as she pulled out the letter inside. Watched as her eyes scanned the words. Watched as the color drained from her cheeks. Watched as her mouth fell open. "What is it?" Dad asked, leaning over to look. Mom's hands were trembling now. She looked up at me, and for the first time in my entire life, I saw something in her eyes that I'd never seen before. Fear. "Amber," she whispered. "Is this real?" I didn't answer. I just sat there, watching all of them as they passed the letter around. Watching as understanding dawned on each face. Watching as Dad's confident smirk disappeared. Watching as Marcus's eyes went wide. Watching as Aunt Linda covered her mouth with her hand. The letter was from Caldwell and Associates, one of the most prestigious design firms in the country. They had offices in New York, LA, Chicago, and Seattle. They worked with Fortune 500 companies. Their designers were featured in magazines, won international awards, shaped the visual identity of brands known worldwide, and they'd offered me a job, not an internship. A job, full-time. Starting salary of $85,000 a year, which was more than my father made after 20 years in business. Relocation assistance to their Seattle office. Benefits. The works. They'd seen my portfolio online, the one I'd been building in my room while my family mocked my computer thing, and they'd reached out directly. Flew me out for an interview 2 weeks ago, which I'd told my parents was a weekend trip with friends. They'd offered me the job on the spot. I'd accepted 3 days ago. $85,000. Dad was reading the letter again. Like the number might change. Starting salary, full benefits package, relocation assistance, the Caldwell firm? Aunt Linda breathed. I've seen their work. They did the rebrand for... Oh my God, Amber. Mom was just staring at me. The letter had fallen from her hands onto the table. She looked like I'd reached across and physically struck her. Good. I start in 3 weeks, I said, my voice calm. Eerily calm, considering the storm raging inside my chest. I've already found an apartment in Seattle. I've already given my notice at the coffee shop. I've already withdrawn from community college because, well, I don't need it anymore. Amber, Marcus started, and I could hear something in his voice. Pride? Respect? Too little, too late. I was going to tell you all tonight, I continued, looking directly at my mother. I was so excited to share this with you, to finally make you proud, to show you that maybe, just maybe, I wasn't the failure you always thought I was. I picked up the letter, folded it carefully, and put it back in the envelope. But then you said you wished I was never born, and everyone laughed. And I realized something. I stood up, pushing my chair back. You don't get to be proud of me now. You don't get to claim this achievement. You don't get to tell your friends that your daughter works at Caldwell and Associates. Because you didn't believe in me. You didn't support me. You mocked me. You dismissed me. You treated me like I was nothing. Honey, wait. Mom's voice was desperate now. I didn't mean it was just what? A joke? I looked at each of them. Do you know how many nights I cried myself to sleep in that room? How many times I questioned whether I was worth anything? How many times I almost gave up on my dreams because you kept telling me they were stupid? Amber, please. Dad was standing now, too. I packed most of my things yesterday, I said. I'll be gone by Wednesday. I'll send you my new address once I'm settled. For tax purposes or whatever, but don't expect me to come home for holidays. Don't expect me to call every week. Don't expect me to pretend that we're this happy family anymore. You can't just leave, Mom said, and now there were tears in her eyes. "We're your family. We love you." I almost laughed. Almost. But I was too angry, too hurt, too done. "You don't love me, Mom. You love the idea of controlling me, of making me feel small so you can feel big. But I'm not small anymore." I picked up my plate, walked it to the kitchen, rinsed it off, habit, and then came back for my jacket. "Amber, come on," Marcus said, standing up. "Let's talk about this." "Yeah, they were harsh, but what?" I turned on him. "Where were you, Marcus? Where were you every time they compared us? Every time they made me feel like I was worthless because I wasn't you? You just sat there, every single time." He didn't have an answer for that. I pulled on my jacket, picked up my keys from the table by the door. "The thing is," I said, turning back one last time, "you were right about one thing. Mom, I am different from this family, but not in the way you meant. I'm different because I actually have a heart. I'm different because I would never, ever say to another human being, especially not my own child, that I wished they were never born." My mother was crying now, full-on crying, mascara running down her cheeks. Part of me, the part that had spent 22 years trying to earn her love, wanted to go to her. Wanted to take it all back, wanted to make her feel better, but I didn't. "Goodbye," I said, and I walked out. I sat in my car in the driveway for a full 10 minutes, shaking so hard I couldn't put the key in the ignition. My phone was already buzzing, Dad calling, then Marcus, then Mom. I turned it off. I didn't want to hear their excuses, their apologies, their desperate attempts to walk back what had been said. Some things, once said, can't be unsaid. I drove to my friend Sarah's apartment. She took one look at my face and pulled me inside, no questions asked. I told her everything, the dinner, the letter, all of it. And she held me while I finally let myself cry. Not sad tears, angry tears, relieved tears, free tears. Because for the first time in my life, I had chosen myself. The next few days were chaos. My parents called constantly, left voicemails that ranged from angry to pleading to confused. Mom sent texts that said things like, "We need to talk about this rationally," and "You're being very immature." Dad sent ones that said, "Think about what you're throwing away, and family is everything." But the one that really got me was from Marcus. "You're really good, sis." I'm sorry I never said it before. I didn't respond to any of them. I packed up my room. 22 years of life fit into a dozen boxes and 3 suitcases, and I moved it all to a storage unit. Sarah's place was small, but she insisted I stay with her until I left for Seattle. On my last night in town, a week after the dinner, my mom showed up at Sarah's apartment. Sarah tried to send her away, but I said it was okay. Maybe I needed this. Maybe I needed closure. We sat on the building's front steps, not looking at each other. The streetlights buzzed overhead. Somewhere a dog was barking. "I didn't mean it," Mom said finally. What I said at dinner. "I didn't mean it, Amber." I didn't respond. "I love you. I've always loved you. You're my daughter." "Then why did you say it?" My voice was flat, empty. "I don't know. You frustrate me sometimes. You're so different from how I was at your age, from how I expected you to be. And I know that's my problem, not yours, but it's hard. It's hard to let go of those expectations." "So you told me you wished I was never born." She flinched. I was angry. "You were talking back, being defensive." "I was defending myself, Mom. There's a difference." Silence. "This job," she said eventually. "This opportunity, it's real? It's legitimate? Did you think I made it up?" "No, $85,000, Amber. That's incredible. I'm proud of you." 3 weeks too late. She turned to look at me then, and I saw that she'd been crying. Her eyes were red and swollen. "Please don't do this. Don't leave like this. We can fix this. As a family, we can—" "There is no we, Mom." I stood up. "There's me, moving to Seattle to start my life. And there's you, learning to live with what you said. What you did. Amber, I'll send you my address. For emergencies. But that's it." I started walking toward the building entrance. Stopped. Turned back. For what it's worth, I don't wish you were never born. I don't wish any of you were. I just wish you'd loved me the way I deserve to be loved. The way I loved you. I left her sitting there on those steps. 3 days later, I was on a plane to Seattle, watching my city shrink beneath me, and I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Hope. But this story is just beginning. Because what happened after I landed in Seattle, after I started my new job, after I built my new life, that's when things got really complicated. That's when my family's true colors really started to show. That's when the envelope I pulled out at dinner became the least dramatic thing in this whole mess. Seattle was raining the day I arrived. Of course it was. Isn't that what Seattle does? But I didn't mind. I stood outside the airport with my 3 suitcases and 2 carry-ons, rain soaking through my jacket, and I smiled. Actually smiled. Because this rain wasn't falling on the girl who got mocked at Sunday dinner. This was falling on someone new. Someone free. My apartment was in Capitol Hill, a tiny 1-bedroom that cost more per month than I'd made in 3 months at the coffee shop. But Caldwell and Associates had given me that relocation bonus, and for the first time in my life I could afford to live alone. Really alone, no parents down the hall, no golden child brother taking up all the oxygen in the house, just me, my art supplies, and a view of the Space Needle from my bathroom window if I stood on my toes. I spent my first weekend building IKEA furniture and crying. Not sad crying, processing crying. 22 years of being small, being dismissed, being the disappointment. It was like lancing a wound, painful but necessary. Sarah called me every night, checking in, making sure I was eating, reminding me that I'd done the right thing. "They're still calling," she told me on Sunday night. "Your mom came by my place again." "What did she say?" "That she needs to talk to you. That it's important. That you're being cruel by ignoring them." Sarah paused. "I told her that cruelty is telling your daughter you wish she was never born, and then I closed the door in her face." I loved Sarah. "They'll get over it," I said, though I wasn't sure I believed it. "They'll move on." I had no idea how wrong I was. My first day at Caldwell and Associates was terrifying. The office was all glass and steel, modern art on the walls, designers working on computers that cost more than my car. Everyone was talented, confident, years ahead of me in experience. I was sure they'd realize they'd made a mistake, that I didn't belong here. But then I met my team. Amber, welcome. Jennifer, my creative director, was a tall black woman with natural hair and the kind of style I'd only seen in magazines. She shook my hand warmly and introduced me to everyone. "We're so excited to have you. Your portfolio absolutely blew us away. That nonprofit rebrand? Stunning work." "Thank you," I managed, trying not to sound as overwhelmed as I felt. "We're throwing you in the deep end," she said cheerfully. "Hope that's okay. We just landed a major client. Fitness app, needs a complete visual overhaul. Thought you'd be perfect for it. They trusted me. From day one, they actually trusted me. I threw myself into work. 12 14-hour days. I designed until my eyes burned and my hands cramped. But it wasn't like before, staying up late in my childhood bedroom while my family slept, wondering if any of it mattered. This was different. This mattered. People saw my work, appreciated it, challenged me to make it better, celebrated when I did. Within 2 weeks, Jennifer told me I was exceeding expectations. Within a month, I was leading parts of the project. Within 6 weeks, the client specifically requested me for their next campaign. I was good at this. Really good. And for the first time, people were noticing. I'd been in Seattle for 2 months when everything changed. I hadn't spoken to my family since that conversation with my mom on Sarah's steps. I'd sent them my address like I promised, a brief email with no subject line, just the information they'd need for tax purposes. My mom had replied immediately, "Please call us. We miss you. We love you." I didn't respond. Marcus tried too. Long texts about how the family wasn't the same without me, how mom was depressed, how Dad was having a hard time. Like somehow, I was responsible for their feelings after what they'd done to me. I didn't respond to those either. Then, on a Wednesday morning in early November, Jennifer called me into her office. "Amber, sit down." She looked excited. "I have news." I sat, nervous. In my experience, "I have news" was never good. "So you know how your fitness app redesign went viral on design Twitter?" I nodded. It had been surreal, watching designers I'd admired for years praising my work online. Well, it caught some attention. Big attention. She slid a folder across her desk. "We got an inquiry from Luminex." I stared at her. Luminex, one of the biggest tech companies in the world. They made everything from phones to laptops to smart home devices. Their products were in millions of homes. Their logo was iconic. "They want to discuss a potential rebrand," Jennifer continued. "Complete visual identity overhaul. It's a multi-million-dollar project, Amber, and they specifically asked if you could be on the team." My mouth went dry. "Me?" "They loved the fitness app work. Said it had exactly the energy they're looking for. Modern but warm, sleek but approachable." She grinned. "This could be career-defining. For all of us, but especially for you. A project like this at your age? Amber, people would kill for this opportunity." I couldn't breathe. Couldn't think. 2 months ago, I was serving coffee and getting mocked at Sunday dinner. Now I was being requested by name for one of the biggest rebrands in tech history. "There's a catch," Jennifer said, and my heart sank. Of course there was. "The initial meeting is in New York, next week. You'd need to fly out, present to their executive team, show them what you're thinking. It's basically an audition. If they like what you present, you're on the team. If not," she shrugged. "But I have complete faith in you." "New York," I repeated. "I know it's fast. But this is Luminex, Amber. This is the kind of opportunity that changes everything." I said yes. Obviously, I said yes. I spent the next week working 20-hour days, building a presentation that would blow their minds. I barely slept. Barely ate. Sarah called to check on me and I barely had time to talk. This was everything I'd worked for. Everything I'd dreamed of. The presentation was scheduled for Tuesday at 2 p.m. Monday night, at 11 p.m. Seattle time, my phone rang. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer. I was in the zone, perfecting the last slides. But something made me pick up. "Amber?" It was Aunt Linda. "Aunt Linda? Why are you... Is everything okay?" "Oh, honey." Her voice was strange, strained. "I'm so sorry to call so late. I just thought you should know. Your mother, she's in the hospital." The world tilted. "What?" "She collapsed this afternoon. They're running tests, but they think it might be her heart. Your father is beside himself. Marcus is flying in from state. I just thought you'd want to know." My presentation notes swam in front of my eyes. Is it serious?" "They don't know yet. But Amber, she's been asking for you. She keeps saying your name." Of course she was. Of course this was happening now, the night before the biggest presentation of my life. "I'll call the hospital," I said. "Get an update from the doctors." "Amber, I think you should come home." There it was. The ask, the demand wrapped in concern. "I have a presentation tomorrow. In New York. It's for... Your mother is in the hospital." Aunt Linda's voice went cold. "And you're worried about a presentation? That's not fair." "Family comes first, Amber. I know you're angry about what happened at dinner, but this is serious. What if something happens and you're not here? What if she, God forbid, what if she doesn't make it? Could you live with yourself?" My hands were shaking. "Let me call the hospital. Talk to her doctors. I'll figure out what to do. You should be on the next flight home. I'll call you back." I hung up and immediately called the hospital. It took 3 transfers before I got someone who could actually tell me anything. "Ms. Chen is stable," the nurse said. "We're monitoring her overnight, running some tests." "Are you family?" "I'm her daughter. She's resting now. Vitals are good. Doctor thinks it might have been a panic attack, actually, but we want to rule out any cardiac issues." "A panic attack?" "Yes. Has she been under any stress lately?" I almost laughed. Had she been under stress? Maybe the stress of facing consequences for telling her daughter she wished she'd never been born. So it's not life-threatening? Not at this time. But we'll know more after the test tomorrow. I thanked her and hung up. Sat there in my apartment, staring at my presentation, my plane ticket to New York on the desk beside my laptop. My mom was in the hospital, stable, probably not dying, but in the hospital, and my family expected me to drop everything and come home. I called Sarah. "What do I do?" I asked, and I hated how small my voice sounded. "What does your gut tell you? That this is convenient timing? That my mom has been calling and texting for 2 months, trying everything to get me to talk to her, and now suddenly there's a medical emergency the night before the biggest presentation of my career?" Sarah was quiet for a moment. "Are you saying you think she's faking?" "I'm saying a panic attack isn't a heart attack. I'm saying the nurse said she's stable. I'm saying—" I trailed off. Because wasn't I terrible for even thinking this? What kind of daughter suspects her mother of manipulating a hospital visit? Amber, only you can make this choice. But I will say this. You've spent 22 years putting your family first, making yourself smaller so they could feel bigger. This is your moment. Your dream. And your mom is stable. You confirmed that with the hospital. But what if I'm wrong? What if something happens? Then you deal with it. But you can't live your life afraid of the what-ifs they hold over your head. She paused. What would you tell me to do if our situations were reversed? I knew the answer immediately. I'd tell her to get on that plane to New York. I'd tell her to choose herself. Go to New York, Sarah said. Knock them dead. And then, after, if you want to visit your mom, do it on your terms. Not because they demanded it. Not because they guilted you into it. I made my decision. I texted Aunt Linda. Mom is stable. I spoke to her nurse. I'll visit this weekend after my work commitment. Please let me know if anything changes. The response came immediately. I can't believe you. Your own mother is in the hospital and you won't come home? What kind of daughter are you? I turned off my phone and finished my presentation. The Luminex offices were in Manhattan, glass tower reaching into the sky. I walked in at 1:30 p.m. on Tuesday, portfolio in hand, wearing the best outfit I owned. Black blazer, cream blouse, fitted pants, professional, confident, like I belonged there, even though inside, I was terrified, not about the presentation. I knew my work was good. I was terrified that my phone would ring, that my mom would take a turn for the worse, that I'd be standing in front of Luminex executives when I got the call that she'd died, and I hadn't been there, that they'd all been right about me, that I was selfish, cold, a terrible daughter, but my phone didn't ring. The presentation lasted an hour. I showed them my vision for their rebrand, modern, clean, but warm, accessible, human, not just another tech company logo, but something that felt like it understood real people, real lives. When I finished, the room was quiet. I stood there, heart pounding, sure I'd completely bombed it. Then the CEO started clapping. And then everyone joined in. Ms. Whitfield, the CEO said, standing up. That was exceptional. Truly exceptional. When can you start? I got the project. Not just a spot on the team, I was named lead designer. Me, 22 years old, 3 months out of my parents' house. And I was leading a multi-million-dollar rebrand for one of the biggest tech companies in the world. I called Jennifer from the airport, and she screamed so loud I had to hold the phone away from my ear. Amber! Amber! Lead designer! Do you understand what this means? Do you understand how huge this is? I understood. I understood perfectly. I also understood that I needed to deal with my family. I flew home, not to my parents' house but to my hometown, that Friday. I'd called the hospital every day to check on my mom. She was fine. The tests had shown nothing wrong with her heart. Panic attack, just like the nurse had initially thought. They'd released her Wednesday morning with a prescription for anti-anxiety medication and instructions to follow up with her doctor. She was physically fine. I drove to the hospital anyway, even though she'd been discharged. I don't know why. Maybe I needed to see the place, make it real. Maybe I needed to prove to myself that I'd made the right choice. I found my parents in the parking lot, just sitting in their car. Dad in the driver's seat, Mom in the passenger side, neither of them moving. I almost drove away. Almost. But something made me park and get out. Walk over to their car. Knock on Dad's window. He startled, looked up, and I saw his face change. Relief, anger, something else I couldn't name. He got out. Mom did too. Amber, Dad said. You're here. I called the hospital every day, I said. Made sure she was okay. She is okay, right? No thanks to you, Mom said, and there was that sharp edge again. I could have died, Amber. I was in the hospital and you chose a job over your own mother. You had a panic attack. You were stable. I confirmed it with your nurse before I made any decisions. A panic attack, she repeated. Do you know why I had a panic attack, Amber? Because my daughter hates me. Because my daughter moved across the country and won't speak to me. Because my daughter has cut me out of her life over one stupid comment at one dinner. I stared at her. One stupid comment? Oh, here we go, Dad muttered. You told me you wished I was never born, I said. My voice level. Calm. You sat at that dinner table, surrounded by family, and you told me that your life would be better if I didn't exist. And everyone laughed. That wasn't one stupid comment, Mom. That was you showing me exactly how you feel about me. I was frustrated. I was angry. People say things they don't mean when they're angry. Normal people don't tell their children they wish they'd never been born, even when they're angry. So you're going to punish me forever? Is that it? Her voice was rising now, getting that hysterical edge. I'm supposed to just lose my daughter because I made one mistake. You didn't make a mistake, Mom. You revealed the truth. And I'm not punishing you, I'm protecting myself. From what? She cried. From family? From people who love you? From people who make me feel worthless. I was shouting now, and I didn't care that we were in a hospital parking lot, that people were staring. Do you know what it was like growing up in that house? Being compared to Marcus every single day? Being told I was too sensitive, too different, too much? Do you know how many times I wished I could just be normal enough for you to love me? I do love you. No, you don't. You love the idea of me. The version of me that fits into your perfect family picture. But you don't love me. The real me. The artist, the designer, the girl who was never going to be Marcus no matter how hard she tried. I took a breath, and I'm done trying. Amber, please. Mom was crying now, and I felt that familiar tug. That instinct to comfort her, to make it better, to make myself smaller so she could feel okay. But I didn't move. I got a job, I said instead. A huge job. Leading the rebrand for Luminex. Do you know what Luminex is? Dad's eyes widened. The tech company? Yes, the tech company. They wanted me specifically. Me and my computer thing. Me and my useless art degree. Me, the daughter who was such a disappointment. I looked at my mom. That's where I was Tuesday. That's why I didn't come running when Aunt Linda called. Because I was presenting to their executive team, and I got the job. Mom's voice trailed off. That's wonderful, honey. Don't. I held up my hand. Don't do that. Don't pretend you're proud now. You don't get to be proud of me, Mom. You gave up that right when you told me you wished I was never born. Amber, that's enough, Dad said, his voice hard. Your mother was in the hospital. You should have been here. Family comes first. Not some job, not some career. Family. Family, I repeated. Dad, family is supposed to support each other. Family is supposed to build each other up. Family is not supposed to tear each other down at the dinner table and then demand loyalty when it's convenient. We made a mistake, he said. We said some things we shouldn't have. But you're being cruel now, Amber. Your mother was scared. She needed you, and you chose work over her. Like you've chosen Marcus over me my entire life? That stopped him. He opened his mouth, closed it, opened it again. No words came out. I'm not doing this anymore, I said quietly. I'm not going to keep setting myself on fire to keep you warm. I'm not going to keep waiting for you to love me the way I deserve to be loved. I'm not going to keep being the family scapegoat while Marcus is the golden child and you both pretend that's normal. Amber, Mom started. I have a life now. A good life. A life where people value me and respect me and actually want me around. And I'm not giving that up to come back to this. I gestured between us. Whatever this is. So that's it? Mom's voice was bitter now, the tears gone. You're just going to throw away your whole family? 22 years and you're just done? No, Mom, you threw me away. At that dinner. When you told me you wished I'd never been born. I'm just finally accepting it. I walked back to my car, got in, started the engine, and I drove away while my parents stood in that parking lot, watching me leave. I didn't look back. I stopped at Sarah's place on my way out of town. Told her everything. How do you feel? She asked, handing me tea I didn't want but accepted anyway. Honestly, I feel free and guilty, and sad, and relieved. All at once. That's normal. You just set a major boundary with toxic people. That's hard, even when it's right. Was it right? She was in the hospital, Sarah. What if she had a panic attack? She's fine, and you checked on her multiple times. You didn't abandon her, Amber. You just refused to let her manipulate you. Sarah squeezed my hand. You're allowed to choose yourself. You're allowed to have boundaries. You're allowed to protect your peace. I wanted to believe her. I really did. But as I drove back to the airport, back to Seattle, back to my new life, I couldn't shake the feeling that this wasn't over, that my family wouldn't just let me go, that the real battle was just beginning. I had no idea how right I was. 2 weeks later, I was in a meeting with the Luminex team when my phone started buzzing. Sarah, then Jennifer. Then Sarah again. I ignored it. I was in the middle of presenting color palette options, but when my phone rang a fourth time, I excused myself. Sarah? What's wrong? Amber. Her voice was strange, tight. You need to see this. I'm sending you a link right now. My phone buzzed. A news article. Local news from my hometown. The headline made my blood run cold. Local mother speaks out. Daughter abandoned her during medical emergency. Below, it was a photo. My mother, looking fragile and sad, tissues in hand. And beside her, looking supportive and concerned, was Marcus. No, I whispered. No, no, no. Keep reading, Sarah said grimly. I did. And with every word, every quote, every carefully crafted lie and half-truth, I felt my new life starting to crumble. Because my mother had just declared war, and she'd done it in the most public, most devastating way possible. I stood in that conference room, staring at my phone, while the Luminex executives waited for me to return. My hands were shaking so hard I nearly dropped it. The article wasn't just bad. It was calculated, surgical, designed to destroy me. My mother had given an interview to our local news station, the kind of human interest piece they loved. Heartbroken mother shares painful story of family estrangement. She'd cried on camera, actual tears. Talked about how she'd made one mistake at a family dinner, how I'd overreacted and cut off all contact, how she'd ended up in the hospital from the stress, and I hadn't even come home. I almost died, she said in the video, dabbing at her eyes. And my own daughter chose her career over me. I don't even know who she is anymore. Marcus backed her up, talked about how shocked he was by my cruel behavior, how the family was devastated by my abandonment. How they just wanted me to come home, to reconcile, to be a family again. They made me sound like a monster. But that wasn't even the worst part. The worst part was the final quote. The one that made my stomach drop. We're so proud of Amber's success, my mother said, looking directly into the camera with those red-rimmed eyes. Her new job with that big tech company, Luminex, I think it's called. We're thrilled for her. We just wish she'd remember that family should come first. That success means nothing if you lose the people who love you along the way. She'd named my company, on camera, in a sob story about how I'd abandoned my sick mother. Amber? Sarah's voice pulled me back. Are you okay? She named Luminex, I whispered. Sarah, she named my company in an interview about me being a terrible daughter. I know. Amber, it gets worse. It's already going viral. Local mom groups are sharing it. People are leaving comments calling you selfish, heartless. I need to go. I hung up before she could respond. I walked back into the conference room on autopilot. 6 executives stared at me, confused by my sudden departure. "I'm so sorry," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "Family emergency. I'll send the rest of the presentation by email." "I'm sorry." I grabbed my laptop and left before anyone could respond. Back at my apartment, I read the article again. Then again. Then I made the mistake of reading the comments. What kind of daughter abandons her mother in the hospital? This generation is so selfish. Career over family? Disgusting. I looked her up. She works for Luminex. They should know what kind of person they hired. My mother could be dying and this girl is worried about work? Unbelievable. There were hundreds of them. And they were spreading. Someone had found my LinkedIn, posted it in the comments. Now people knew my full name, where I worked, where I went to school. My phone rang. "Jennifer." "Amber, what the hell is going on?" I closed my eyes. "You saw it. Everyone saw it. It's all over LinkedIn now. Design Twitter. Someone sent it to the Luminex team." She paused. "Amber, they're asking questions. About your character. About whether this reflects badly on the company." "It's not true." "Jennifer, I swear, it's not. I believe you. But I need you to explain. Everything. Right now." So I did. I told her about the dinner. About what my mother said. About the hospital. How I'd called. How the nurse confirmed she was stable. How it was a panic attack, not a heart attack. About the parking lot conversation. About how I'd been checking on my mother every single day. "Amber," Jennifer said when I finished, "why didn't you tell me about any of this?" "Because it was personal. Because I thought I could handle it. Because I didn't think my mother would—" My voice cracked. "I didn't think she'd try to destroy my career." Okay, here's what we're going to do. You're going to write a statement. Nothing emotional, nothing defensive. Just facts. You checked on your mother, confirmed she was stable, went to your work commitment, and checked on her again after. You've attempted to reconcile with your family, but there are personal issues you're working through. That's it? Will that be enough? Jennifer was quiet for a long moment. Amber, I'm going to be honest with you. Luminex is already nervous. This is a multi-million-dollar project. They can't have negative publicity attached to it. If this keeps spreading, if it gets picked up by bigger outlets. She didn't finish the sentence. She didn't have to. I could lose everything. After I hung up, I sat on my apartment floor and cried. Real ugly crying. Because I'd finally escaped. I'd finally built something good, something mine, and my family was trying to take it away. Not because they loved me. But because I'd dared to leave, my phone buzzed. A text from a number I didn't recognize. You brought this on yourself. Come home, apologize, and maybe we'll do a follow-up interview. Otherwise, this is just the beginning. Mom, she'd gotten a new number to text me. And she wasn't even pretending this wasn't intentional. This was revenge. I wanted to throw my phone across the room. Wanted to scream. Wanted to give up. But then I thought about something Sarah had said. You're allowed to protect your peace, and I realized I'd been defending myself this whole time. Explaining. Justifying. Trying to make people understand. But maybe it was time to stop defending. Maybe it was time to tell the truth. I called Sarah. I need your help? Anything? That dinner. The one where my mom said she wished I was never born. You were the one I came to afterward. Do you remember what I told you? Every word. Would you be willing to go on record about it? As a witness? Sarah didn't hesitate. Absolutely. Good. Because I'm going to need witnesses. Jennifer, can you confirm the dates I called the hospital? The times? Already pulling phone records. By midnight, I had a folder of evidence. Hospital records showing my mother's admission and discharge. Panic attack, not cardiac event. Phone records showing I'd called the hospital 4 times in 3 days. Text messages from my mother before the hospital visit, the manipulative ones trying to guilt me into contact. Screenshots of my work calendar showing the Luminex presentation had been scheduled for weeks, and I had Sarah's written statement about what I'd told her that night after the dinner. About what my mother had actually said, I wrote my own statement. Not defensive. Not emotional. Just facts. And then I did something I never thought I'd do. I posted it publicly. Not on the local news site. That would look petty. But on LinkedIn, where my professional reputation mattered, where the people making decisions about my career would see it. Setting the record straight. Recently, a story was shared about me and my family. I've remained silent on personal matters, but given the professional implications, I feel it's necessary to address some inaccuracies. In August, during a family dinner, my mother told me she wished I had never been born. This was witnessed by multiple family members. When I expressed hurt over this comment, I was mocked. This wasn't an isolated incident, but rather the culmination of years of similar treatment. In October, my mother experienced a panic attack and was hospitalized. I immediately contacted the hospital to check on her condition. I spoke with her nurse, who confirmed she was stable and that tests showed no cardiac issues. I checked in daily while fulfilling a work commitment that had been scheduled weeks in advance, a commitment that would become a significant milestone in my career. After my mother was released from the hospital, I drove home to see her in person. We spoke. I did not abandon her, as has been claimed. I share this not to disparage my family, but to provide context. Family relationships can be complicated. Setting boundaries is not abandonment. Choosing to prioritize one's mental health and career is not cruel. I'm grateful for the opportunities I've been given professionally, and I'm committed to continuing the work I love. I hope we can return our focus to that work rather than personal family matters that should remain private. To those who've reached out with concern, thank you. To those who've judged without knowing the full story, I understand, and I hope this provides clarity. I attached the hospital records, the phone logs, and Sarah's statement. And then I hit post before I could second-guess myself. The response was immediate. Comments started flooding in within minutes. But this time, they were different. Thank you for sharing your truth. Family trauma is real. I went through something similar. Setting boundaries isn't cruel, it's survival. The original story didn't sit right with me. This makes so much more sense. As someone who works in healthcare, panic attacks are not the same as heart attacks. That was misleading. Design colleagues chimed in. People who'd worked with me. Professors from my community college who remembered my dedication. And then, something unexpected happened. Jennifer posted, "I've had the privilege of working with Amber for several months now. Her professionalism, talent, and dedication are beyond question. I'm proud to have her on our team." Other Caldwell designers shared it, added their own testimonials. The narrative was shifting. But my family wasn't done. The next morning, I woke up to 15 missed calls. All from my father, and one voicemail that made my blood boil. "Amber, how dare you? How dare you air our private family business to the entire world? You've humiliated your mother. Humiliated this entire family. You've made us look like monsters when all we've ever done is love you and support you. This is unforgivable. You will take down that post, you will apologize publicly, and you will come home immediately. If you don't bother ever coming back. You're not my daughter anymore." I listened to it 3 times, and each time I felt lighter. Because he'd finally said it. The threat they'd been holding over my head my entire life. "You're not my daughter anymore." And I realized I didn't care. I didn't want to be their daughter. Not if it meant accepting abuse. Not if it meant making myself small. Not if it meant sacrificing everything I'd worked for to soothe their egos. I texted back, "I won't be taking down the post. I won't be apologizing. And I won't be coming home. You're right about one thing. I'm not your daughter anymore. I'm my own person. And I'm finally okay with that." Then I blocked his number. Blocked my mother's new number. Blocked Marcus. Blocked Aunt Linda. I was done. That afternoon, I got a call from Luminex. My heart stopped. This was it. They were cutting me from the project. My career was over before it had really begun, Ms. Whitfield, the CEO's assistant said. "Mr. Chen would like to speak with you." I was transferred. Waited in silence. My hands clenched so tight my nails dug into my palms. "Amber." Mr. Chen's voice was warm. I wanted to reach out personally. Mr. Chen, I understand if you need to remove me from the project. I never meant for my personal life to remove you? Amber, I'm calling to tell you we're behind you 100%. I couldn't have heard that right. I'm sorry, what? I read your statement. I read the hospital records. And I have to say, I'm impressed by how you handled this. Grace under pressure. That's exactly what we need on this project. He paused. I also read the original article. And between you and me, I recognized the manipulation tactics immediately. My own mother used similar ones for years. Mr. Chen, you set boundaries. You protected your mental health. You fulfilled your professional commitments. Those are all positives in my book. If anything, this situation has shown me that we made the right choice in bringing you onto this team. I couldn't speak, couldn't breathe, so please don't worry about your position. You're exactly where you should be. Now, shall we discuss the project timeline? After that call, I sat in my apartment and sobbed. But this time, they were tears of relief, of vindication, of finally being seen. The article died down over the next week. My post got shared widely enough that the narrative changed completely. People started criticizing the original news station for running such a one-sided story. Some pointed out how my mother had specifically named my company, how calculated that was. Local mom groups that had originally condemned me started debating family boundaries and toxic parenting. It became a bigger conversation about children's rights to protect themselves from damaging family relationships. My mother tried to do another interview, but this time the news station declined. The story had turned against her. She tried calling from different numbers. I blocked them all. Marcus sent a long email that I deleted without reading. Aunt Linda sent a Facebook message. Blocked. They couldn't touch me anymore. Work became my sanctuary. The Luminex project consumed my days in the best possible way. I was creating something beautiful, something meaningful. The team respected my ideas, challenged me, celebrated my wins. Jennifer became more than a boss. She became a mentor. She'd been through her own family estrangement years ago. It gets easier, she told me one night when we were working late. Not right away, but eventually you realize that peace is worth more than their approval ever was. 3 months after the article, Luminex launched the rebrand. My design, my vision, it was on every tech news site, every design blog. People loved it. Called it fresh, approachable, warm. My name was on it. Credit where credit was due, and my parents couldn't claim it. Couldn't tell their friends that's our daughter with pride. Because I wasn't their daughter anymore. I was just Amber, designer, creator, survivor. I got job offers from other companies. Speaking requests. A design magazine wanted to feature me in their 30 Under 30 issue. I was thriving. But there was still a hollow spot inside me. Still moments when I'd see a mother and daughter laughing together in a coffee shop and feel that ache. Still holidays that felt empty. Still that small voice asking if maybe I'd overreacted, if maybe I should have tried harder, if maybe I was the problem after all. Sarah reminded me constantly, you weren't the problem. You were the scapegoat. There's a difference. 1 year after that dinner, I got an unexpected email from Marcus. I almost deleted it without reading. But curiosity got the better of me. Amber, I know you probably don't want to hear from me. I know I don't deserve a response. But I need to tell you something. And I need you to know I'm not looking for forgiveness or reconciliation. I just need you to know the truth. You were right. About everything. After you left, things got worse. Without you there to blame, to criticize, to make the problem. Mom and Dad turned on each other, then on me. I couldn't do anything right anymore. Every achievement was not as good as it could be. Every mistake was catastrophic. I finally understood what you lived with for 22 years. I moved out last month. Got my own place. And Mom had another medical emergency the day I told them I was leaving. Another panic attack. She tried to guilt me into staying, said I was abandoning her just like you did. But I remembered what you did. How you stood up for yourself. How you chose yourself even when it was hard. So I left anyway. I'm not asking you to talk to me. I don't deserve that. I just wanted you to know that I finally get it. And I'm sorry. I'm so sorry for every time I sat there and let them tear you down. For every time I benefited from being compared to you. For not standing up for you when I should have. You deserved better. You deserved a brother who protected you. I hope you're happy. I hope you're thriving. And I hope someday maybe you can forgive me. Marcus. I read it 5 times. Part of me wanted to respond. To tell him I understood, that I forgave him, that we could rebuild something. But another part, the part that had learned to protect itself, knew that forgiveness didn't mean reconciliation. That understanding his position didn't erase what he'd done, that I could acknowledge his apology without letting him back into my life. So I did something I never thought I'd do. I wrote back, Marcus, thank you for the apology. I believe you mean it. I'm glad you got out. I'm glad you're protecting yourself now. That takes courage, and I'm proud of you for that. But I'm not ready for a relationship with you. Maybe someday. Maybe never. I don't know yet. What I do know is that I've built a life I love. I have people who value me, work that fulfills me, and peace I've never had before. And I'm not willing to risk that even for family. I hope you find that peace too. Take care of yourself. Amber. I hit send and felt nothing. No anger. No sadness. Just a calm acceptance. He responded, I understand. Thank you for responding at all. I hope you stay happy, and that was it. No drama, no guilt trips, no demands. Just 2 people who used to be family, now just people. 6 months later, I was featured in Design Magazine's 30 Under 30 issue. Full spread interview, photos of my work. They asked about my background, my inspiration, my journey. I told them about the dinner. Not in detail, not vindictively, but honestly. About being underestimated. About choosing to believe in myself even when my own family didn't. About the envelope that changed everything. The article went viral. Not because of family drama this time, but because my story resonated with people. So many young people who felt dismissed by their families, who'd been told their dreams were impractical, who'd been made to feel small. They saw themselves in me. And they reached out. Hundreds of messages from aspiring artists and designers and creatives, thanking me for sharing my story. For showing them it was possible to choose yourself and still succeed. I framed that magazine cover, hung it in my apartment, not to brag, but as a reminder. A reminder that the girl who got mocked at that dinner table, the girl who was told she'd never amount to anything, who was told her mother wished she'd never been born, that girl had survived. More than survived. She'd thrived. My parents never reached out again. I heard through Sarah, who still lived in our hometown, that they told people I'd turned my back on the family, that they were victims of a vengeful daughter. Some people believed them, but most people, especially after the magazine article, saw through it. And honestly, it didn't matter anymore. Their opinion of me had no power. Their approval wasn't something I needed. I had built my own family now. Sarah, who'd been there through everything. Jennifer, who mentored me and believed in me. My team at Caldwell, who celebrated every win with me. Friends I'd made in Seattle who knew me as I actually was, not as the black sheep of the Whitfield family, people who chose to be in my life. Who chose me every day? That was what family was supposed to be. 2 years after that dinner, I bought my first house. Small but perfect, with a studio for my art and a view of the mountains. I hosted a housewarming party. 20 people crammed into my living room, laughing, drinking wine, celebrating with me. Sarah flew out for it. Brought champagne and a card that said, "To the girl who pulled out the envelope and changed her life. I'm so proud of you," we toasted. To new beginnings, to chosen family, to peace. And as I looked around my house, at these people who loved me, who saw me, who celebrated me, I realized something. My mother had been right about one thing at that dinner. My life would have been easier if I'd never been born into that family. But I had been born. And I'd survived. And I'd escaped. And I'd built something beautiful from the ashes. The envelope I pulled out at that dinner didn't just offer me a job. It offered me freedom. It offered me proof that I was valuable, that I was talented, that I was worth something. But the real transformation? That came from choosing to believe it. Choosing to walk away from people who couldn't see my worth. Choosing myself even when it was hard. Especially when it was hard. That night, after everyone left, I sat in my studio and painted. Not for work, not for clients, but just for me. The first personal piece I'd done in months. I painted a dinner table. Empty chairs. An envelope glowing in the center like a beacon, and in the corner, almost hidden, a girl walking away. Her back straight. Her head high, walking toward light. I titled it, Wish, not I wish you were never born, but I wish I'd done this sooner. I hung it over my fireplace, a reminder of where I'd been, where I'd come from, and how far I'd traveled. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. My heart clenched. Was it them? Had they found me again? But it wasn't my parents. It was Marcus. Saw your magazine feature. You look happy. I'm glad that was it. No demands. No guilt. Just acknowledgement. I didn't respond. But I didn't block the number either. Maybe someday we'd find our way back to each other. Maybe we wouldn't. Either way, I'd be okay, because I'd learned the most important lesson of all. You don't owe anyone access to your life just because they're family. You don't owe anyone forgiveness just because they apologize. You don't owe anyone your peace just because they demand it. You owe yourself love, protection, the chance to thrive. And sometimes, the bravest thing you can do is walk away from the table, even when they're all watching, even when they're all laughing, even when they're all telling you you're wrong. Because the envelope I pulled out that night, it wasn't just a job offer. It was permission. Permission to choose myself. Permission to demand better. Permission to build the life I deserved. And I took it. 3 years later, Amber's work is featured in museums. Her designs have won international awards. She speaks at conferences about creativity, resilience, and setting boundaries. She still doesn't talk to her parents, and she's never been happier. Sometimes the family you're born into isn't the family you need. Sometimes you have to create your own. And sometimes the greatest act of love is walking away from people who can't love you the way you deserve. Sometimes the envelope you pull out at dinner isn't just a piece of paper. It's your whole future, and it's worth fighting for. Thank you for following Amber's journey. If this story resonated with you, please like, subscribe, and share your own story in the comments. You never know who needs to hear that they're not alone. Remember, you are not too sensitive. You are not too much. You are not the problem. You are enough, exactly as you are. And you deserve a family, whether blood or chosen, that sees that.